All right, let's do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another edition of the Super Farmer Cigar Garage Talks. In my garage, I'm excited. This video is one I've been looking forward to all year. This video series. Let me correct myself. Series. It's been a while since I've done one of these series, and I'm excited. First, well, let's just, what are we smoking? What are we drinking? Let's go to the drink first. So smokes, we're going to get into that. We have the Kippo Stout, the Sauna Stout. It is a barrel-aged chocolate vanilla stout. I have had this one before. Again, you kind of know my criticism about barrel-aged beers. I did a whole series on that. Not great. This one wasn't bad, though. If I remember correctly, I've had this one before. The Kippo Stout. It's not bad. The barrel doesn't do it great. Yeah, I mean, it's not making it smoother or easier to drink. You can taste on the barrel, but for barrel-aged stouts or barrel-aged beers, that one's pretty good. So yeah, the cigar tonight. So excited. I get this every year. I usually am not a fan of buying seasonal cigars. I mean, there's ones that'll come out, during the summer, or during the spring, or during the fall. I'm not really into that, except for this one. This is the Diesel Sideshow. This is kind of the embodiment of the cigars that I like to smoke. I would show you what the cigars look like here, but I put them in my humidor. There's 7 different cigars. If I remember, I'll try to put a little image of what they look like. They're just unique, different cigars. Each has their own story. Each has their own construction. And for a guy who likes smoking random, you can't get much more random than this. The Sideshow cigars, highly recommend them. Very good. All of them are winners. They're fun. You have to take a minute to learn the story behind them. Just delicious. I look forward to it every year. Tonight we are smoking the Strong Man. Is the biggest cigar. I think it's it feels like a 60 gauge. I think maybe it's more like a 40 or 50. Excuse me. In about 7-inch cigar. I don't have the actual specs on it. Good strong cigar, Maduro, with a little bit of a Connecticut wrapper, zebra pull or barber pull style, going through it. Good cigar. I do like it. So what are we going to do with these unique cigars that I get once a year? Well, we better do a unique series with them, right? And I've done this before. We're doing it again. We're bringing back EMS War Stories. That's right. I'm really excited. So we're going to do about 7, maybe 8 videos about EMS War Stories. And it's pretty impressive. I mean, I was in EMS for 20 years. I've been out for quite a bit now. But, I still got a bunch. I have 56 on a playlist. And I think those are all the ones. This will be 57. I think I got all the videos. So I have a year's worth of war story videos. If I was to do once a week, more than a year's worth of war stories. And I looked through the list, and there's more that I haven't shared. Some have happened more recently. Because even though, as many public servants know and say, even though I'm not on the rig, that doesn't mean that I'm no longer EMS. I will forever be a paramedic. It shaped who I am and what I do. So, war stories will continue. But let's break it down. Well, let's introduction, huh? First cigar, first introduction. What is an EMS war story? So for full transparency, it has nothing to do with actual war combat. I was not a veteran. I'm not a veteran. I did not fight in the armed services. But we call our EMS calls war stories when we talk about them. And it's been widely accepted that, yeah, it's fine for us to call them that. Because in EMS, we are fighting death. We're fighting disease. We're sometimes fighting patients. We're sometimes actually getting shot at. It's once we get out, the tones drop, we respond, what happens? That is our war story. So I do have to clarify, though, that I'm not a veteran, did not serve in the military, but it is a term used universally. We use the term war stories. I have had one or two people throughout my history, my life, tell me, one, they were confused. I was teaching an EMS class, and I talked about my war stories and how I use them to teach, not to gloat. And the guy came to me at break. He's like, oh, which unit did you serve in? And I tell him, no, I was in the military. We call our EMS stories that we get on the radio, we call those war stories. So, yeah, just to get that off the bat. When we go on a call, we tell the story, we call that our war story. Here's the next disclaimer. Some of these stories are 100% true. Some of them are total works of fiction. Some of them, I actually ran the call. Some of them, someone else's story. And I'm not going to tell you which one's which. Some of them are embellished for teaching purposes. Some of them are restrained, shall we say, for not going to throw up from hearing the detailed stories. So when I'm talking about these stories, you might hear one and go, hey, I know that story. That happened to a friend of mine, or that would happen to me. It's not about you. It's not about your friend. It's not about your family member. One, these stories are very universal. They happen throughout the United States constantly. They're meant to be relatable. They're meant to relay messages and stories. So, yeah, you might hear one like, hey, that's breaking HIPAA. He's telling me, telling my story. Chances are I'm not. Or if I did, there's a good chance I didn't actually run that call. Now, these stories do span throughout Michigan and throughout the United States. I've actually worked in many different states throughout the United States, and I've also worked internationally. So you're like, hey, I was treated by someone in Michigan in the UP. And that sounds like my story. You're creating a HIPAA violation. No, it's not you. It's probably false. They probably made it up, or I probably heard it from someone else, or I embellished it to make it a good teaching story. Who knows? So if one sounds familiar, you think I was potentially your medic who treated you, I was not. Like I said, some of these are true, some of them are false. Some are mine, some are someone else's. Some have been embellished to make a point, and some have been kind of watered down to make them more appropriate to share with people. So why do we do war stories? EMS, I think, my personal opinion, were the worst with it. Tell me in the comments if you think there's another profession that's even worse with war stories. We are very quick to share calls we've been on. We'll talk about experiences we had. And it's almost constant. I mean, every shift you have guys talking about calls they've been on and experiences they've had. Some EMS classes, it's, there's a meme out there, our 10 minutes of actual learning is done. Now it's time for 3 hours and 50 minutes of the teacher's war stories. So taking that into account, you can see why we do these. One, it builds a sense of community. I share with you, you share with me, you went on a call, I share with you, I went on a similar call. We are connected. We have a sense of community. We both have lived through this life and seen similar things. It'd be very helpful to know that, hey, someone else went through this. Talking about, there's this one time I was on a call and I froze up. Like, I didn't know, should I treat this person? Should I not? What should I do? And I might share with you, well, yeah, I had something very similar. I had a car accident where, I froze up. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. It was almost as if some mysterious force was physically holding me back from doing my job. So we do that. Let's relate with each other. Let's talk to each other as humans and understand that although this is a crazy profession and we do amazing things, we are connected. We are in this together. Next, and I kind of alluded to this, it's boasting. um, one-upping. That's where the embellishing comes. Wow, you worked a code for an hour? Let me tell you the time I worked a code for an hour and a half. Another guy, well, I worked it for 2 hours. I'll come into the chat. I worked a code for 2 hours, involved a ferry ride, an intercept vehicle, a blown-up ambulance, and a chicken that came in the ambulance and started attacking, an attack chicken. The stories get bigger and bigger. It can just be for boasting. It can be for, who's got the bigger Johnson swinging those around, who's got the most chutzpah, who's dealt with the most deaths or traumas, especially younger guys or idiots. And I do repeat myself. We'll do that. There was one guy, I came on duty and he's talking about this story. And I'm like, wow, that sounds really familiar. He was talking about an ambulance accident. Didn't say he was in it, didn't say he wasn't in it, but heavily implied that, he was. And he knew all about this. He had insider trader information about it and how everyone should listen to him because, he has this amazing thing to share. He was talking about my ambulance accident, the one I was in. So, yeah, he was trying to one-up himself. That he's done all this great stuff. He knows this great stuff. He's not. He's an idiot. So, yeah, there is that. We do use them for teachable moments where we can teach new generations or other medics or other providers, here's what I did and here's the outcome. And they are good teaching tools when used properly. I have sat in those classes where it's nothing but listening to the instructor's, 30-year history of what calls he ran. Very little good actual information you can pull from it. Entertaining stories, don't get me wrong. I don't know what it is about EMS providers. We can tell a tale, right? We can spin a yarn like you wouldn't believe, make it entertaining, get emotion into it, talk about it. And they're super entertaining. I love sitting down and listening to other people's war stories. I'll listen to you all night. I'll buy beer and listen to you. If you like sharing them in the comments, go ahead and share some. It's a lot of fun. So they can be used as teachable moments. They can be overly used in those teachable moments too, which that's unfortunately the case. I actually, when I teach ICs, have to really press upon the fact of when do we use war stories? When is it appropriate? When is it not? So, yeah, we have those situations. Besides the boasting and whatnot, it really is a chance for us to decompress. We can relive those stories in a controlled fashion. We control the narrative. We can relay them to other people so that we can get it off our chests. In EMS, we're really not supposed to talk about our calls, what patients we've had. We do run the risk of violating HIPAA. But we can't hold it in. We can't keep it tight to our chest and not let this stuff out. It will eat you alive to not share, not talk about these stories, not get them out. It's great for psychological recovery to share these war stories. Some of these ones haunt me to this day. I will get a sensation, a feeling, a smell, a sight, and that call comes rocketing back. And I'm there again, maybe making the right call, maybe making the absolute wrong one. But by being able to share these stories, it takes them from a reality that happened to a fairy tale, an allegory, a fictional story. It reframes these experiences away from being a tragedy to maybe a comedy. Maybe something that can be shared, something you can embellish, something you can, not have to deal with on a personal level. And there's a lot of science to back that up. That sharing these stories and tales is very, very healthy. It's something that we should be doing more in EMS. We should be definitely sharing our tales and our stories of what we've been through. So there's that. like I said, a couple of words of warning about EMS stories. If you are an EMS and you're kind of watching these ones, here's the thing. Here's how you can quickly tell who's full of shit. If they're sharing war stories and they never share one of when they made a mistake, or if it is, like they made a mistake because they wanted to see what it was like. You know, they, yeah, I messed up. But, you know, in truth, the doctor came to me later and said, well, you know you messed up, but you actually made the right call. Or, you know, I messed up so bad that it actually helped the patient. If you're one of those guys telling those war stories, just shrug them off. They're full of shit. They didn't do anything they said they did. And they can be very toxic. I remember one guy, and you know, he did tell me, he's like, you know, some older, very experienced medics, we were talking about burns, and he's like, you know, I've never seen a patient with just one burn, barring, you know, a sunburn maybe. But if they have second, they're going to have first. If they have third, they're going to have second and first. Like, they're going to have a mixture. And I was like, wow, in my 20 years of experience, I've noticed that too. Like, not to mention this, but yeah, there's never been like all second degree burn. They usually have first degree surrounding it, or first degree on another part of their body. You know, the patient that had third degree, they also had some second degree next to that wound, or maybe some first degree and then second degree somewhere else. Like, oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that. And I kind of recalled some of the calls in my head and shared a few stories. And also I relayed this interesting little factoid to this medic, and he's like, well, I definitely have had a patient who only had second degree. It was all second degree. I'm like, okay, well, I don't believe you. Either you didn't have this patient, or you don't know how to differentiate between first and second and third degree. Well, some medics don't. So he got horribly defensive. Got in my face. You telling me a liar? I'm like, yeah, I kind of am, actually. But, you know, that's fine. If you want to lie, you can lie. I don't mind. I don't believe you had a patient that had only second degree on their majority of their body. Because that's what he told me. It was all second degree. It was one big blister. I'm like, okay, well, I don't believe you. And he got really upset. He actually reported me to our boss. And I'm like, okay, fine. I didn't believe his story. I don't think that's in our policies. Don't say we have to believe each other's war stories. This was the same medic. Again, he'll tell you he's never made a mistake. Well, he's made one once. Because, you know, he wanted to see what it was like. And the doctor, though, told me, you know, even though you made a mistake, it probably helped the patient in the long run. So, you know, I saved that life because of my mistake. It's like, okay, you're full of shit, dude. So, yeah, it is. If you're in EMS, war stories are great. Great way to decompress. Do it carefully because they can lead to HIPAA violations. Like I said, I'm not nervous about HIPAA violations because I can put in that disclaimer. I've done this across the United States. I've done this internationally. I've done it for 20 years. And I'm truthful. Some are completely truth. God's honest truth. Some of them are made up. Many of them are embellished. Some are watered down. Some are modified for teaching examples. You just don't know. But do be careful, especially if it's a brand new call, just happened. There are times and places when you can share that. But, you know, just be careful. They do and can lead to HIPAA violations. And that's a serious thing to take into consideration. So anyway, folks, like I said, you get another 6 or 7 war stories out of this series. I'm so excited. We're giving the marriage series a break. We're giving the updates a break. Nothing but for the next 6-7 weeks, war stories. You're going to find out why there's a little bit of a variation. You might be able to guess if you look at those cigars that I posted earlier in the video. But anyhow, I'm going to go enjoy my Strongman Sideshow cigar. Reminisce about some EMS calls. Maybe watch Sirens or watch Bringing Out the Dead to kind of bring back some of those old memories. Anyway, folks, I hope you're staying safe out there. We'll see you on the next one.